This is a pretty cool day. We're wrapping up just a 3-week series on being thankful. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. A couple weeks ago, we expressed how important it is to say thank you to Christ for the things that He did for us that we could not do ourselves. That's important to understand. If you're breathing oxygen today, if you're here, you're going to sound of my voice. It's because God ordained for your place on this earth and for this time, for the season, and it's just one of the most beautiful things. Last week we talked about being grateful for others, and particularly for the church, how God ordained the church to be the body of Christ. And I'm so grateful for the church and in that way. Today, it's thank you for me. From your perspective, it's thank you for me. Thank you for you. For this. Are you with me? Thank you, God, for Mommy Nichols. If it's you, it's thank you for Clayton Boswell. Thank you for Al Stevens. Thank you for Rita Tella. Are you with me? There's some different aspects to this, that we can begin by, quoting the song that says, thank you, God, for making me fearfully and wonderfully complex. Thank you, God, that I have all of my days remembered in your book. The verse in Philippians 4 that says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, which we'll get to a little later on. But there's a certain part of this that we could really focus on. Thank you, God, that I'm so awesome. Thank you, God, that I'm so amazing. Thank you, God, that I'm so fantastic. And trust me, there's a lot of that is very true. But we're going to take a bit of a different turn this morning. So before we start, I'd like to just pray right quick and just ask God's anointing on this time, okay? Let's pray. Father God, this is your church and we are your people. Thank you so much. Today, dear Father, I pray, would you bless the word as it goes out. Dear Father, I pray that we would be 100% reliant upon you. God, I pray that you calm my nerves. I pray that you would allow what is to be shared today to be for the sake of the kingdom, the sake of the church and its people. And out of this, dear Father, may there be growth. In Jesus' name I pray. Everybody said, Amen. Thank you. So we're gonna start in Judges chapter 6 and 7. And I want to kind of walk through this a little bit, and it's going to be kind of difficult because I'm going to kind of run off the top of my head in a lot of this, in a lot of ways, and so there's a part of me that wants to pace, and I'm going to try not to because we have people that aren't going to be here, that aren't here today, that really want to hear this message, and so Tammy's going to be posting this later on YouTube and posting the link to Facebook and to our church's website because I want people to be able to hear this message today. So if you're looking around and you say, well, so-and-so's not here, so-and-so's not here, what I want to encourage you to do is I want to encourage you to be sure to contact them and say, hey, you know what, Monty preached a message that I think you need to hear today. It's on Facebook or YouTube. You can find the link to the church's website or whatever, and go that route, okay? If you have your Bibles open, please open them to Judges chapter 6. Paper version, electronic version, I don't care, whatever you've got. Just that you would get there. I'm going to paraphrase the story and work through it that way. And it's the Monty Nichols Revised Standard Version, okay? So I'm going to take some different perspectives that probably aren't going to find in King James or NIV, but I hope you get the message across. So if we begin in chapter 6, we realize where we are. Israel as a nation has made the exodus out of 400 years of slavery in Egypt. God has taken them through the wilderness for 40 years and now brought them into the promised land. And as they're now in the promised land, God has continually pointed out it is important for you to maintain the covenant that we have together. As long as you place me first and foremost in your life, I will take care of you. I will lead you. I will provide for you. I will protect you. And this is a wonderful promise of covenant that Israel is blessed to have with God the Father. Unfortunately, Israel, if you're reading along, you find Israel doesn't quite do that. They get intrigued with the false idols and the false gods of the people of that area, and they begin to worship the god of Baal, and the Asherah pole goes up, and they're worshiping everybody else but Jehovah. And God said, fine, that's what you want to be, then I'm going to send you into the hands of the Midianites. And the land of Midian rushes into the promised land, and they pretty much become the cartel, if you will. They come in and they run everything. They steal out of the fields of the Israelites. They steal out of their warehouses and the storehouses of food. They take out of their homes. They beat up their people. They do all kinds of horrible things to the people of Israel. They live in fear. They live in major fear of the Midianites. The Midianites have set up camp right in the middle of their spot. And the Israelites are scared to death of the Midianites. If you look down to about verse 11, I think it is. Verse 11, we find the story of Gideon. Gideon, we find that he's in the wine press. He's not pressing wine, he's threshing wheat. An odd place to thresh wheat is in the wine press, right? But the reason why he's threshing wheat in the wine press is because he's scared for his life. Because if he threshes wheat out where people can see him, particularly the Midianites, they'll say, oh, he's got food, let's go get it. And they'll take food from his house, and he won't have food for himself or his family. And so, if you're taking notes, the very first blank that we're going to fill in is Gideon was afraid. Gideon was very afraid. He was afraid of the Midianites. The minions, whatever you want to put in there. He was afraid of the Midianites, and that's why he's in the wine press. And it's the reason why he's there threshing grain. Verse 12 comes along, and what you hear is you hear the angel of the Lord come up to him and say, greetings, strong hero. The Lord is with you. There's all kinds of this verse that totally doesn't quite stand out for poor Gideon. First off, he's scared spitless. Hero? And then he responds and he says, if God is with us, then how come we're taking the woman that we're taking? How come the Midianites are coming in and just ripping everything apart? And then the Lord replies in verse 14. He says, you're going to go with the strength that you have, and you're going to rescue Israel from the Midianites. And I'm sending you. Gideon's totally just flipping out about right now. He's in a wine press crushing wheat, hearing how he's a mighty hero, he's a coward, and he's hearing how God's going to go with him and he's going to defeat the Midianites. What? And he says, are you kidding me? And this scares him. So the second blank that you're going to fill in is that not only is he scared of Midianites, but now he's scared of the Lord's command. The Lord says, hey, you go do this. You're the strong and mighty hero, and you're going to go and you're going to defeat the Midianites with the strength that you have, and I'm sending you. And so Gideon responds and he says, I am the smallest of the youngest of the weakest clan in Israel. I am the nobody of nobodies. I am the very bottom. There is no strength in me. I ain't got nothing. And then he says, this is real simple. The third blank, he's scared of the Midianites, he's scared of the Lord's command. Now he's afraid of his own insufficiency. He says, I don't have it in me to do. And he says, I'm not strong enough to do what you've asked me to do. So here's what I want to ask you, Lord. If you're really telling me you want me to go and defeat the Midianite army, then this is what I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask you for concrete proof. Anybody ever done that? The Lord says, hey, this is what I want you to do. And you say, you betcha, but I want some concrete proof that this is really what you want me to do. And that's what Gideon does. Gideon says, yes, I've got a request to ask. And it's the story of the fleece. He says, I'm going to place a big pile of lamb's wool in the middle of the winepress floor. And tomorrow morning, if this is really your will for me, what I want you to do is I want you to saturate it with food. But everything around it I want to be dry. And God says, all right, fine, I'll see you in the morning. And so Gideon goes to bed, wakes up the next morning, comes into the winepress. Guess what? He picks up the lamb's wool and brings out water. Lots of it. And the floor's dry. And he's like, oh. So Gideon then does what we all do. Best 2 out of 3? Please. He goes, let's flip this real bit. How about this time, I'm going to put the lamb's wool down in the middle of the winepress floor, and I want to ask you to make the floor solidly wet from the dew, but the wool itself this time will be just as dry can be. And the Lord says, okay, fine. See you tomorrow. So Gideon puts the wool down, goes to bed, gets up the next morning, comes into the wine press, and he looks down, and the floor is soaked with dew, but the fleece, the wool, is dry as a bone. So Gideon says, okay, I'll do what you've asked me to do. But he still felt like he was not strong enough. Well, the Lord said, go in the strength that you have. Gideon said, you know what? I'm not strong enough, so I'm going to get some guys to go with me. So he goes throughout all of Israel. If you want to follow along in chapter 7, he goes throughout all of Israel, and he finds 32,000 men to join him as an army. God shows up and says, Gideon, that's a pretty impressive army you got there. See, thank you, Lord. They're not all really kind of wanting to do this, but I twisted their arm, made them feel guilty, so they're here. Well, your army's too big. I can't work with that many people. And Gideon's like, you know how we get. You know, when we don't feel like we're strong enough and God wants to take away some of our strength, he said, okay, so what do you want to do? And so the Lord says, why don't you just say, hey, if you don't really want to be here, you can go home. Okay, well, Lord, I think they're all devoted pretty much. I'll ask them. So he goes out to the army and he says, listen, if you don't really want to fight in this battle against the Midianites, and you want to go home, then you're welcome to go home. I know that you guys are really loyal to the people of Israel, but where are you going? Where are you going? Come back. Where are you going? And 22,000 of the 32,000 men left, leaving 10,000 men. Gideon's okay, so they weren't really fighters anyway, so we got 10,000 men. They're solid warriors. They can do this. They know how to fight. And I can still win. He felt so insufficient. But yet I think we can do this. I think we can win. Maybe. We might die. I don't know. We might. The Lord says to him, hey, the army's still too big. Wait a minute. He goes, well, God, we've already cut 22,000 men. What do you mean? He goes, take them down to the brook and let them drink from the water and watch them. And when they drink, if they cup the water up to their mouth and they watch the horizon and see what's coming, those are the guys you want to keep. But everybody else that just sticks their face in the water and drinks from the water, drinks straight out of the brook without looking, those are the guys that you can send home. So Gideon says, okay, well, I think they're going to be pretty good about this. I think that most of them will do that. Okay, I can do that. So one by one, they came down to the brook. And Gideon watched them horror as one after another stuck their face right down in the water to drink. And he goes, from 10,000 men, 300. God, we're dead. we're dead. You want, 300 men are going to go up against the Midianites, and you say we're going to win this? God, yeah, that's right. Gideon, we're going to do just fine. Oh, by the way, those 300 warriors that you have, yeah, they're good men. They're really able-bodied and strong soldiers. You just look good. But I want you to take their weapons away from them. What? Take their weapons away from them. He goes, yeah, in fact, all I want you to give them is a trumpet, a clay pitcher, and a torch. Oh, we're dead. This is what I want you to do. I want you to go at night. I want you to surround the army. And on your signal, all 300 will blow the trumpet, break that clay pitcher, and wave their lit torch in the air. And Gideon said, okay. And so under the cover of night, that's what they did. And they took the 300 warriors armed with trumpet, clay pitcher, and torch and surrounded the camp of the Midianite armies. And on Gideon's go, they busted the clay pitcher, they blew the trumpet, and they waved that torch in the air. And the Midianite army wakes up out of their sleep. And they are so confused that they begin to fight each other. And in the middle of their confusion, the Midianite army literally defeated itself. And the 300 men who were Gideon's army were not hurt. I want you to keep this in mind. God whittled Gideon's army down from 32,000 to 300. Remember, he said, go in the strength you have. Gideon said, my strength is not enough. My strength is not enough, so I've got to have more strength. I've got to have more power. So he builds himself up to 32,000 men. And God says, no, you don't need that much. All you need is the strength you have. In essence, here's the next blank if you want to fill it in. Simply put, the Lord needed less than 1% of Gideon's strength. The Lord needed less than 1% of Gideon's strength. One of my favorite passages of Scripture is in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 8 through 10. I just want to share with you verse 8 to begin with. Okay? This is what it says. Paul says, 3 times I begged the Lord to remove this thorn from my flesh. Now, earlier he refers to the thorn in his flesh as a messenger of Satan. And there was this thing, God, I don't like this thorn. Would you take it away from me? Why does Paul ask for this? I think the reason why Paul says, remove this thorn from my flesh is because he felt that he was not strong enough because he had this thorn in his flesh. I think he felt insufficient. I've got this, and we don't know what it was. We know that it could have been a physical deficiency. He may have had a limp. He may have had a issue. He may have had, who knows? He may have been deaf in one ear. He may have had a speech impediment. He may have stuttered. He might have had this haunting reputation of being a church killer. Remember, that was his previous job. He had something in his past that haunted him. He had something, there was a thorn in his flesh that caused him to think, I'm not strong enough because of this part of my story. And he was afraid that he wasn't strong enough because of it. I think that's all of us. I think all of us have something in us that we feel as being a deficiency. Something about us that is not something that works with us. Maybe it is a physical issue. Maybe my back, I can't get around like I used to get around. Maybe it's a financial thing. I'm broke. Am I saying that? Christmas is coming. Maybe it's a story in your past that haunts you. And I just can't deal with this deficiency. It's a part of my history. I can't deal with this. And what I know is that we usually deal with this deficiency one of three ways, and sometimes all three. One, we hide it or we bury it. We don't want to tell anybody about it. Sometimes you have somebody who has tattoos from a previous life, and they don't want to show those tattoos off to anybody anymore. So what they do is they wear long sleeve shirts everywhere they go because they're embarrassed about them. So they hide those deficiencies. Sometimes they'll play them down, like they don't. No, that's not a big deal. You know, I've got a problem with my leg, but that's all right. I'll carry my own weight. I'm good. Three, we'll overcompensate for it. Yeah, that's a part of my story. That's my stuff. So it is my weakness. It is my deficiency. It's where I fall short. But over here, I'm going to overcompensate. I'm going to build this side up really big. And I'm going to become a Superman because of it. And it's really good because that's the whole point of how we deal with our deficiency. So we can present ourselves as being flawless, as being impenetrable, as being strong enough, even though we're scared to death inside, like Gideon was. Give you an example. There was a kids camp I went to a couple of years ago, did the music for, and there was a boy there who, great young kid, about 11 maybe at the time. He was born with a foot that was messed up, and so they had to actually amputate it at the ankle. And so he wore a prosthetic leg from the knee down. And that was what I would call his deficiency. It was his heart story. And he would wear jeans to hide it sometimes, but then he got really bold and he had a Kansas City Chiefs prosthetic leg made. And he wore that one with pride. But he would also play it down. It's no big deal, I'll keep up. Let's go. And then he would overcompensate by showing, hey man, I'm tough. Even in the light of this, I'm tough. I'm a tough guy. I love the kid. He's a great kid. This particular church camp, there was another boy that was there who gave him fits. The second kid's name was Charlie. And Charlie would just absolutely start fights with his first kid. Just get after it. Charlie was on the bunk above me, and I told him, man, you gotta quit this. He said, what? I'm not doing nothing. What? And it's the last night of kids camp. And I noticed that throughout the week, Charlie, whenever he would change clothes, he would always change clothes inside his sleeping bag. Isn't that just the weirdest thing ever? Thursday night, Charlie is getting undressed right in front of me. He doesn't realize what he's doing. He's unbuttoning his shirt. And he opens up his shirt to take it off, and I see on his chest there's an incision about this long, a scar where he had open heart surgery somewhere in his short life. And as soon as he saw that I saw it, he had covered that thing back up. You see, he had a deficiency. He had a part of his story that he really, really didn't want anybody to know. And because he didn't want anybody to know, he buried it by changing clothes in his sleeping bag. He played it down by not letting anybody know about it and by redirecting it onto this other kid. And he overcompensated it by picking fights. Tell you another story. There's a young girl, graduated high school. She had married a young man about 3 years older than him. They got married in June, and the following May, she delivered a son. They decided that they would name it after their fathers. And so they picked the husband's father's first name and the mother's father's middle name. Thus they named him Arthur Montgomery Satterwhite. That's me. That's me. It wasn't long after I was born that my mom and my biological father were divorced. And my mom got a job at the Ball Glass plant in Mogi, and that's where she met Don Nichols. Man, I know his dad. And they got married, and he adopted me as his own and gave me his name. They raised me right, raised me well. My mom, she carried shame. She carried a lot of shame, and didn't want to tell me. In fact, they went to a lot of effort to not share the story with me. When I started Pee Wee baseball, they didn't have a birth certificate. My mom said that she'd get it, take it to the coach, and show him and stuff. So they wanted me to be known as Don Nichols' son. And she wanted that previous marriage to go away. She was so ashamed about it. And I'm just trucking along, living my life, doing my thing as an 8, 9, 10-year-old boy, and suddenly I'm doing what sometimes boys of that age do. I'm going through my mama's dresser drawer, being nosy. I don't know about you when you were a kid. You didn't have that. Like, what goodies are in here? Especially Christmas and holidays. Where's my birthday Christmas? In there? And I pulled the drawer out. You remember when Band-Aids came in a tin can? Remember when I don't know why, but I always thought those were the coolest thing. She had a little full of wheat paint. And she had a little 22 revolver that she kept in there. And I found this. And I opened up to see whose it was, and it says, presented to Arthur Montgomery Satterwhite by great-grandparents Lance. I'm thinking, who could this be? I'm the only Arthur Montgomery that I know. I think, oh no. Oh no. And suddenly, I carried shame. I went to my mom with it, and I said, what's this? She took it away and she said, you need to stay out of my stuff. There's stuff I still don't know. Because my mom carried so much shame. And because she carried shame over this failed marriage and the child born to this first, I don't know the whole story. All I know is that she carried so much shame. And I saw myself a product of a shameful experience for her, so therefore I attached shame to my story. And I really thought to myself, I'll never be good enough. Years later, I would come to find a beautiful, 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 beautiful response. Now when Paul said, take this away from me, God's response. Now grace is all you need. For my strength, part in your weakness. And in that moment, my shame didn't matter. I didn't have any shame. It was not even mine to carry. He goes on to say, so now I'm glad to boast about my weakness, so that the power of Christ can work through me. That's why I take pleasure in my weaknesses, and in the insults and the hardships and the persecutions and the troubles that I suffer for Christ. For when I am weak, then I am strong. This is my story. It's my story. And it's a common story. It's a common story, but because of the fact it was my story, it came with shame. Because it came with that kind of imprint, I had to carry a lot of hurt for it. Until I realized, no. Gideon said, I'm not strong enough. And there was that same imprint that tried to push on me. So Paul said, so therefore I will glory in my weaknesses, that when I am weak, then I am strong. So what does it mean? What does it mean to glory in your weakness? I don't share this story lightly. Chances are most of you have heard this story for the first time from me. Chances are some of you may have heard the story from somebody else. But I don't share this story because I want to throw my junk out there and let you take pity on me. That's not it. In fact, I want to go the other direction. What does it mean to take glory in your weakness? What does it mean to take glory in your weakness? I have a really simple answer, and that is this. To humbly proclaim that God needs no more than less than 1% of my strength. I buried it. I hid it. I didn't tell nobody. I'm 51 years old. And the majority of the world is hearing about it for the first time. But I'll tell you now that the glory of my weakness over this is to humbly proclaim that God can use whatever He wants to do. That all He needs is less than 1% of my greatest strength. There's a verse in 1 Corinthians 1, 27 through 29. I want you to listen to what it says. It says, instead, God chose things the world considers foolish in order to shame those who think they are wise. And He chose things that are powerless to shame those who are powerful. God chose things despised by the world, things counted as nothing at all, and used them to bring to nothing what the world considers important. As a result, no one can ever boast in the presence of God. We've all got something in our history, in our story. We've all got something that is a part of our deficiency. Something that we say, you know what, I want to hide this. I don't want anybody to know. I want to bury this. I don't want nobody to know. Or we're going to play it down and say, you know what, I'm not that. It's all right, that's good, I'll keep up. Or we overcompensate for it and say, you know what, I'm going to build up this part of my story to make up for this deficiency. And yet God says, I can only use less than 1% of it. Which is really interesting, just a quick thought. What are you going to do with the other 99%? If God only needs less than 1% of our strength, what are we going to do with the other 99%? How about we spend it in an intimate relationship with God? How about we spend it believing that He can do amazing things with less than 1% of us? We tend to not want to tell anybody our stuff. And yet, Paul says, I glory in my weakness, that when I'm weak and I'm strong. So I'm going to give you a couple of reasons why we glory in our weakness. First one is this, because it trims away unnecessary muscle. It trims away unnecessary muscle. Remember Gideon, he had 32,000 men in his army because he was afraid he was not strong enough. And so he wanted to overcompensate for his inability, his inadequacy. And so what God did with Gideon's strength was He cut away the muscle that wasn't necessary. And He removed it. And He pushed it away. And when we glory in our weakness, what happens is that it does just that. It moves away the focus off of these things, and it gets to the point where God can use that less than 1%. Why? So that He may get the glory, honor, and credit for it. And since He's after the less than 1%, I want you to hear me on this one, okay? If you're listening to somebody else right now, if you're doing something else, clear it away, listen to me. It could be that because God is after that less than 1% of you, it could be that whenever He's after that, He trims away unnecessary muscle Himself. And you find yourself dealing with more heartache. The second reason why we glory in our weakness is to promote the less than 1% club. To promote the less than 1% club. You see, I know people, and we never want to let off that we're weak. We never want to let off that we are in some way inefficient or inadequate or less than. We don't like to air our stuff. We don't like to do those things. And so what we do is we overcompensate. One of the fact of the matter is that when we say, God, I'm going to glory in my weakness, that when I'm weak, then you are strong. That's when God does amazing things. I look back over this life of mine. I'm 51 years old. I look back over my life and I think of all the amazing ways in which God has blessed, how God has provided, how harshness is because all I got is this. And what God is able to do with that, less than 1%. And what I hope will happen is that you hear my story and you say, you know what? I've got my little pocket of skeletons. I've got my little pocket of inefficiencies and my little pocket of inadequacies. I've got that stuff in my story. But I've hidden it away. I've buried it away so nobody can see it. I've overcompensated for it. And I've played it down. It's not being a big deal. Instead of saying, God, this is a part of my story, and you can work in the middle of my story. And so I'm going to trust that you will. Because at the end of the day, what I hope will happen is that you'll be a part of less than 1% of yourself. This is me. This is my stuff. This is my story. This is where I'm at. I'm so scared to death of not being strong enough that I want to overcompensate and do everything I can to build myself up to be bigger than what I really am, just so that nobody knows about my stuff. Paul says, I take glory in my weakness. God, you have fearfully and wonderfully made me to be amazing. And that verse in Philippians 4:13 that says, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. It's not God adding strength to your existing pile of strength already. It's not some kind of a turbo mode that he kicks you up into to just turn your amount of strength into something else. It's his strength working through you. I can do all things, how? Through the strength of him who made me, who loves me and keeps me. It's my less than 1% which makes room for all of his. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. But we put on this Superman persona. No, man, I'm not broke. There's nothing about me that's bad. I'm not in any way, shape, or form deficient. I'm going to present myself to everybody that I'm not. Anyway. So here's my question, Superman. Are you Superman because you have trusted God with your life to the point that you allow him to be your strength? Do you take glory in your weakness? Do you realize that all of that stuff is just a part of your story that God can use to bring glory to himself? That's what God wants to do. We've all got stories. We've all got stories. Are we going to let God use our stuff so that he can magnify himself through us? Are we going to be so scared of not being strong enough that we pile it on and we present ourselves in a way that just shows everybody around us, hey, you can't hurt me. Hey, I don't have any deficiencies. Hey, I don't have stuff. Because I'll tell you what happens with that Superman. He gets beat up. He gets blown apart. Yet, here's the thought. Paul, who says, I glory in my weakness, wrote many, many, many letters to many, many different churches across the province of Asia. And these letters would become what we know as canon, or part of the New Testament today. And therefore, the foundations of the church were written by one man, where most of the letters were written from a prison cell, when he was weak, when he was sick, when he was hungry, when he was cold. And out of the glory of his weakness, the church grew. This is my story. I know you may have a story too. I want to encourage you with this though. Which Superman do you want to be? Would you stand? Father God in heaven, thank you for making me. Thank you for writing my story.